This weather isn't like what it used to be. The seasons don't even come at the same time of the year. There was a family who lived over there years ago. They had a small farm and they worked very hard. They grew enough to eat and sold the rest at the market in town for a little money, not much but enough to buy simple things. Then one year it was really dry. A lot of people around this area tried to save what they could. Some had to sell their ox and animals to survive. We all thought the next year would be better, but it wasn't. The rain didn't come for 2 more years, and by then a lot of the families were gone. I worked on another farm, so I could afford to stay in my house. But my neighbors, they weren't so lucky. The father moved to the city to look for work and left his wife here to raise their children. He found a job at a hotel by the sea. Everything was expensive, but he always wanted to send his money to his family. The money wasn't always enough, and his wife was doing everything on the farm, and his daughter had to leave school to help her mother at home. One day, a young boy came back to the village who also worked in the city. He told the woman that her husband's house had been damaged from the heavy rain, but that he was safe and that she shouldn't worry. He also gave her some money that her husband had given him. That was the last money she ever received from her husband. A few weeks later, the boy came back. He told her that the wild storm had come through the city and the streets were flooded and her husband's house had collapsed. Days later, she came to my house asking me for food for her children and told me about her husband's death. She told me about how much bad luck her family has had over the last few years. I couldn't do much for her that day, but I thought there might be someone in town who could help her. We spoke to the community leader who worked in town. She told him about the droughts and floods and what had happened to her family.
I'm very sorry to hear about your husband. This must be very hard for you and your family, I know, because there are many families like yours in this area. They've all suffered because in this area a little less rain than usual can turn into a big disaster. But it doesn't have to be like this. We know what we can do so that droughts and floods do not destroy our lives. I must tell you, when your husband died, it wasn't because of bad luck. There are things that could have been done to protect him and avoid all of this. The money that the government spends in the city needs to be used to make those areas safer and build better cities. We cannot do much about the heavy rains, but that doesn't mean that the houses should be washed away. We can protect our roads and houses, and governments can make sure schools and hospitals are built in safe places and protected from storms. In the poor area where your husband lived, the proper drainage system could have meant that the floods would not have been as bad. If your husband had lived in a safer house, he would be with us today. But there are many things in our community that we can do too. Over by the hills, we're terracing the hillside. They're planting fruit trees so that they can sell the fruit, and when the heavy rain comes, it won't flood the village at the bottom of the hill like it has in the past. As a community, we can also plan what to do when a flood comes. There are villages that have developed their own evacuation teams. They have megaphones with which they warn people, and they help the elderly and mothers with children to reach shelters quickly so that they are safe. We are also teaching people to build better irrigation systems so the land is protected from erosion and future droughts. I know things are very difficult for you right now, but if we work together we can change that. It will mean a better life for your family if we think about what we can do about these disasters. We can protect ourselves and each other.
I don't know what the weather is going to be like next year. Maybe it will be beautiful or it could be dry again. But I don't worry about it now because we have done things if it's bad. If we had done this years ago, The young men wouldn't have had to leave to get work in the city, but at least the children will have a better life.
Find out more about why disaster risk management matters and how we can invest today for a safer tomorrow. Join the International Strategy for Disaster Reduction.